special day. We won't recite a regular verse the standard way, but we will refer to many different verses from different shastras in a presentation about Srimati Radharani, her glories, and some of her pastimes. So whenever we talk about the Lord, and especially Radha Krishna Leela, it's important to preface it with a little bit of tattva. Right? So there are two different things in discussions of Krishna, and one is tattva, which means knowing in truth who these personalities are, right? Who is Krishna, and especially who is Srimati Radharani, because their relationship is very easy to misunderstand. So it's important to understand really who are we talking about when we talk about Radha Krishna. And then when we understand the tattva, then we can go into the rasa. So rasa means the sweet taste that Radha and Krishna enjoy from their loving relationship with each other. So the two things are there. From our point of, from Krishna, Radha and Krishna's point of view, they don't think about tattva. Tattva is for us. They're just immersed in the rasa. They're just immersed in the love, the emotions, the feelings, the reciprocations, all the pastimes that are going on. But for us, so that we don't misunderstand and put a mundane spin on what's happening in Radha Krishna Leela, then we need to understand the tattva. So we'll start off talking a little bit today about Radha tattva. And this is based on some verses from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela chapter 4. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, of course in the 10th canto, there's a lot about Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. And there's a lot there about Srimati Radharani, but her name is not mentioned. Everything is very confidential in Srimad Bhagavatam for different reasons. But before we get to the 10th canto, there's all the first 9 cantos. So the first 9 cantos are establishing Tattva, who is Krishna. So that when we get to 10th canto, then we can really appreciate the personality who's performing all of these pastimes as if he was an ordinary human being. That's the confusing part, because he performs his pastimes as if he was a human being. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna's Kaviraj is very explicit about Srimati Radharani. He says the name Radha many times in many different ways, and he speaks directly about who she is and what her relationship is with Krishna. So we'll begin reading from, before we read, let me just do some Mangalacharya. And you can, whoever knows these mantras, please join in. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pucharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Jai. So we're reading here from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 4, text 59. And we'll read a series of verses here. Radhika Haina Krishna Pranaya Vikara Swarupa Shakti Ladini Nama Yanhara. Translation: Srimati Radhika is the transformation of Krishna's love. She is his internal energy called Ladini. So, what is the function? Ladini means Krishna's pleasure-giving potency. So Radharani is the transformation of Krishna's love, and she's also the personification of his pleasure-giving potency. So we can guess, what is the function of Krishna's pleasure-giving potency, his Ladini Shakti? That Krishna's Kaviraj says here. Ladini Karaya Krishna Ananda Svadana Ladini Radvara Kare Bhaktera Poshana. So, Dvare Kare, 2 things. The Ladini Shakti does 2 things. It gives pleasure to Krishna, Krishna Ananda Asvadana, so he's increasing Krishna's pleasure, and Bhaktera Poshana, it nourishes his devotees. So whenever we feel happy and nourished and inspired in Krishna consciousness, that's coming from Srimati Radharani. It's coming from Krishna's Ladini Shakti. And then he continues here. Ladinira Sara Prema Prema Sara Bhava Bhavera Paramakashta Nama Mahabhava. The essence of the Ladini potency is love of God. The essence of love of God is emotion, bhava. And the ultimate development of emotion is mahabhava. Mahabhava Swarupa Shri Radha Thakurani Sarvaguna Kani Krishna Kanta Shiromani. Shri Radha Thakurani is the embodiment of Mahabhava. She is the repository of all good qualities and the crest jewel among all the lovely consorts of Lord Krishna. Krishna Prema Bhavita Yanra Chitendriya Kaya Krishna Nija Shakti Radha Kridara Sahaya. Her mind, senses, and body are steeped in love for Krishna. She is Krishna's own energy, and she helps him in his pastimes. So specifically it says here, Radha Kridara Sahaya. So Kridara means means play. Basically, Krida means to play. So Krishna has these playful pastimes, and Radha is Krishna Nija Shakti, Krishna's own Shakti, his own potency, and she, Radha Kridara Sahaya. Sahaya means she's with him, she accompanies him, and so she accompanies him in all of his playful pastimes and assists him, because when you play, you have to play with someone, right? It's no fun to play alone, you want to play with friends. So Srimati Radharani always accompanies Krishna to help him and make the pastimes more enjoyable. So I'll read a little bit of the purport to that verse. Srimati Radharani is as fully spiritual as Krishna. No one should consider her to be material. She is definitely not like the conditioned souls who have material bodies, gross and subtle, covered by material senses. She is all spiritual, and both her body and her mind are of the same spiritual embodiment. Because her body is spiritual, her senses are also spiritual. Thus her body, mind, and senses fully shine in love of Krishna. She is the personified Ladini Shakti, the pleasure-giving energy of the Lord's internal potency, and therefore she is the only source of enjoyment for Sri Krishna. So in that section, Krishna's Kaviraj goes on to explain how all the different, like the queens of Dwarka are all expansions of Srimati Radharani. And all the Lakshmis, all the goddesses of fortune, who are the consorts of Lord Vishnu in the countless Vaikuntha planets, are also all expansions of Srimati Radharani. So Radharani expands herself to accompany the Lord in every appearance, in every incarnation, on every spiritual planet. Wherever he is, she's there by his side in some way, shape, or form. So just as Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations, as mentioned in Bhagavatam, Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsam, Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. Right? After listing all the different incarnations, and Sukadeva Goswami says, all these incarnations are just portions, plenary portions, or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's the source of all of them. He's the fountainhead of all incarnations, all the Vishnu Tattva incarnations. So similarly, Srimati Radharani is the fountainhead of all the consorts of all the incarnations. So all these different, in all these pastimes, there's Lord Vishnu and his incarnations always have a consort. And that's an expansion of Srimati Radharani. So when the Lord appears as Lord Vishnu, who does Radharani appear as? Lakshmi. When Lord appears as Lord Ramachandra, Radharani is? Sita Devi. When the Lord appears in his form as Lord Balaram, who is Radharani? Revati, his Balaram's wife. Now it's going to get harder. When the Lord appears as Matsya, the fish incarnation, who is Radharani? Vedas. The four Vedas, good one. All right, when the Lord appears as a tortoise, as Lord Kurma, to assist in the churning of the ocean of milk, who is Radharani? Close. Vasaki, the snake that makes that mountain churn and makes the mountain scratch the Lord's transcendental back. All right, when the Lord appears as Varahadev, who is his Radharani? Bhumi Devi, the earth goddess, who he rescues, the damsel in distress, right? When the Lord appears as Buddha, who is Radharani? Huh? No, this is a hard one.
Knowledge.
Yeah, his intelligence. His intelligence, right? His enlightenment. Okay, so those are some Vishnu Tattva incarnations. He also, this is very amazing, is that Radharani is also there even in the Shakti Avesh avatars. So these are not even Vishnu Tattva but Jiva Tattva, because they're partial expansions of the Lord, then Radharani also partially expands herself to support the Lord in those Shakti Avesh avatars. So when the Lord empowers King Prithu to rule the world, before I even asked, she got it. Radharani comes as Archie, his queen. Okay, that was easy. This one's hard. When the Lord comes as Parashuram to kill all of the corrupt Kshatriyas. His axe. Radharani is his axe, yes. And the word Parashuram, Parasha means axe and Ram means happy. So Parashu's name literally means axe happy. His axe makes him very happy. So that's Radharani, she makes Krishna happy in all of his forms. Okay, you're going to get this one easily. When the Lord empowers Narada with Bhakti Shakti to spread devotional service, Radharani appears as his Veena. And when Srila Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Lord, appears to divide up the Vedas and make Vedic knowledge accessible, Radharani appears as Srimad Bhagavatam. You are so intelligent. So in all these ways, Radharani is, she's called Sarva Lakshmi, the source of all the goddesses of fortune and the source of all of the Lord's opulences. And in these incarnations, what does she do? So Krishnadas Kaviraj goes on to explain. Krishna Vansha Purti Rupa Kare Aradhane Ataeva Radhika Nama Purane Vakane. Her worship, Aradhana, consists of fulfilling the desires of Lord Krishna. Therefore the Puranas call her Radhika. So in all these incarnations, all these manifestations, whatever Krishna desires, whatever the Lord desires, Radharani is there to fulfill. And her name, Radha, comes from the Sanskrit word Aradhana, which means worship. So she is the best worshipper of the Lord, therefore she is called Radhika. And because she fulfills all the desires of Krishna, she's also called Sarvakanti. Jagat Mohana Krishna Tanhara Mohini Ataeva Samastera Paratakurani. Lord Krishna enchants the world, but Sri Radha enchants even him. Therefore, she is the supreme goddess of all. So not only is she the supreme out of all the Lakshmis and all of the gopis and out of all the queens, all the consorts of the Lord, not only is she the source and the origin and the fountainhead and the supreme goddess of all of them, but she also is the Lord of Krishna himself. She attracts Krishna, she bewilders Krishna, and she controls Krishna by her love. So that's a very special thing. So now we're going to talk about Prema Bhakti Shikaite Apane Avatari Radha Bhava Kanti Dui Angi Karakari Shri Krishna Chaitanya Rupe Kaila Avatara Eta Panchama Shlokera Artha Parachara. So Krishnadas Kaviraj says that to propagate Prema Bhakti, this love for Krishna that Srimati Radharani has, Krishna appeared as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the mood and the complexion of Sri Radha. So he's explaining here the 5th verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'm going to say this 5th verse because it gives us some insights into Srimati Radharani's position. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Ladini Shaktir Asmat Ekatmanavapi Bhuvi Puradeha Vedam Gatoto Chaitanyakyam Prakattam Aduna Tadvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhavadyati Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. So, the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So we can learn a lot about Srimati Radharani from studying Chaitanya Lila, because Lord Chaitanya comes with the mood of Srimati Radharani. And he also comes with the mission of Srimati Radharani, because Radharani is very compassionate. She wants Krishna to be happy, and she knows that Krishna is not happy knowing that so many souls have turned away from him and are suffering in this material world. So she wants to make Krishna happy by bringing all the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead, so that they can engage in Krishna's pleasure pastimes with her and with Krishna, and they can be happy, and Krishna can be happy by their service, and Krishna also becomes more happy seeing that all of his souls are, all of his parts and parcel expansions, all of us are happy. So Lord Chaitanya comes for that purpose, to establish the Yuga Dharma of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which is comprised of nothing but the names of Radha and Krishna, and which is the most powerful method for bringing us back to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna as servants in their divine pastimes. So Lord Chaitanya directs us towards Radha and Krishna as the ultimate object of worship. And this is something very unique in the history of Vaishnavism, is to so clearly establish that the goal is the lotus feet, is the eternal service of Radha and Krishna, that the worshipable deities are Radha and Krishna, not just Krishna, not Lord Vishnu, but Radha and Krishna together, the divine couple. And he also taught us how to worship Radha and Krishna. The method, by chanting Hare Krishna, by hearing their pastimes, especially from Srimad Bhagavatam, by serving the deities of Radha and Krishna. And he also taught us the mood of that worship. And the mood of worshipping Radha and Krishna is not awe and reverence, it's not rules and rituals, but it's sweetness, it's intimacy, and it's spontaneous love. So he taught us that by his teachings, also through the teachings of his followers, the Goswamis and their followers, our acharyas. And he also taught us by his personal example, because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, but he comes as a devotee. So in all of his pastimes, he's acting as a devotee, and he's showing us by his personal example how to be a devotee of Radha and Krishna. So, and in doing so, in appearing as a devotee, he's in the mood of specifically as Srimati Radharani, he's able to taste the love that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna by serving Krishna in the mood of Radharani and separation. So, and in doing that, he also demonstrates how we too can taste the nectar of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, specifically, the Madhurya Rasa. So this is Lord Chaitanya's unique gift to the world. That in addition to giving us the holy name, he also gave us access to Madhurya Rasa. Not just some, interesting stories to hear about, but that we can actually love Krishna with that mood. Love Krishna in the conjugal mellow, as Srila Prabhupada would say. So this was a big thing. This was huge because Krishna came 5,000 years ago to perform his pastimes, and he displayed his whole Vraj-lila, his, all the pastimes with all the different 5 rasas. And but after, when Krishna wound up his pastimes, he was in Goloka, and he was observing what was happening on the earth planet down here, and he was thinking, people didn't get it. People just didn't understand what I tried to show them. I tried to show them my sweet Vraj-lila, my most intimate pastimes with my cowherd boys, with Madhya Yashoda Nandaraj, and especially with the gopis. But everybody just forgot all about that, and they're still just worshipping in this mood of awe and reverence. They're still just worshipping by rules and rituals, and if they continue with that mood, they're going to go to Vaikuntha, because that's the mood of worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. That's not the mood of worshipping Radha and Krishna. So I need to come and I need to teach people, not just by my instructions, but literally in Kali Yuga, people are so dull, I need to show them by my example how to worship Radha and Krishna properly. So, there's a nice verse that talks about this mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anarpita charim chirat karunaya vatirna kalo samarpayitum unnato jvalarasam swabhakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dutikadamba Sandipita Sadari Dayakandare Spuratu Vashachi. So this is a verse composed by Rupa Goswami. It's the second verse of one of his most notable works called the Vidagdha Madhava. And it's his blessing, actually. So may you all be blessed by this blessing of Rupa Goswami. So Rupa Goswami says, "May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in this age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before." What is that? The most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So, yeah. Unnato ujvala rasam. This most elevated, the highest rasa, the highest relationship, most confidential relationship that one can have with Krishna is the ujvala rasa, which means, ujvala means brilliant. And so it's referring to madhurya rasa, the conjugal mellow. Swabhakti, of his own service, and that Shriyam, this is a great treasure. This is an unprecedented gift that Lord Chaitanya gave the world. And ironically, in Kali Yuga, the lowest of all ages, the most degraded age, he gave the highest of things. So Lord Chaitanya also, he taught us by his life how to live a life of devotion to Radha and Krishna, and how that manifests differently at different stages. So in his early years, it's interesting that Lord Chaitanya, although he's Krishna, and he came as a devotee of Krishna, but he manifests this pastime in his early years of not, at least externally, not appearing as a devotee. Right? He was just a teacher of mundane grammar and logic, and in fact, he would argue with the devotees. And devotees would cross the street when Lord Chaitanya was coming to not have to be confronted by him with his mundane arguments. And the devotees like Advaita Acharya would be like, "Oh, if Nima, I can just become a devotee." So eventually their desires were fulfilled because he met his spiritual master Ishvara Puri, and he took initiation and he received the holy names from his guru, and he started chanting the Mahamantra. And through that chanting, his heart completely changed. Of course, this is all a pastime because his heart is always pure. But externally, he started to manifest his real mission, which was to experience pure devotion, to experience the ecstatic love of Srimati Radharani. And so he became an ecstatic devotee, and he just started doing Harinam through the streets of Navadvip and teaching. He was still a teacher, but now he was teaching Krishna consciousness in every lesson, having kirtans in the house, having home programs, right? Kirtans till late in the night or through the night in the house of Srivas Thakur and other places, discussing Krishna Katha with his intimate associates. So he's showing through his example how to practice Krishna consciousness. And later he left Navadvip and he traveled all over the world, similar to the way Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan and traveled all over the world to spread Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya traveled all over South India, chanting the holy names, spreading the holy names, discussing Krishna Katha, making people into devotees, and spreading Krishna consciousness far and wide all over India. And then at the end of his life, then he retired, and he went to Jagannath Puri, and he just stayed there for the last, I think, 18 years of his life. And he would spend his days totally immersed in Krishna Katha, in the association with very confidential associates like Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar, Raghunath Das Goswami, and others. And they would just be reciting Radha Krishna Leela. And Lord Chaitanya would hear that, and he would go into deep states of ecstasy. He would be exhibiting all of these amazing ecstatic symptoms. Sometimes he would go into deep, deep meditations, like trances of meditation, in absorption of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, and very intense aspirations to serve them in feelings of separation. He would have these transcendental longings. So in this way he demonstrated how a devotee should pass the life, that at the end of the life we should just absorb ourselves in Radha Krishna Leela. So Lord Chaitanya is also called the Mahavadanyaya Avatar, the most munificent incarnation, the most generous. Right? Munificent means generous, because he very liberally disclosed these topics, the deepest secrets about Radha and Krishna's love for each other. So we're going to hear one of these confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna as narrated by Lord Chaitanya in one of his maddened states of ecstasy. So the context for this narration is that Lord Chaitanya was walking with his associates and they were heading towards the beach. So they would regularly walk along the beach in Jagannath Puri, which is a seaside town. And as soon as Lord Chaitanya saw the sea, then he remembered the Yamuna. And remembering the Yamuna, he started remembering Radha and Krishna's pastimes in the Yamuna. And then he started running. He just started sprinting, at the speed of the mind towards the ocean. And he fell into the ocean. And anyways, it's a long story. But after quite a few amazing, wonderful things happened, Lord Chaitanya came back to external consciousness. And so he's in this state where he's like half in internal consciousness and half in external consciousness. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to so what he's going to narrate, because he was meditating on the Yamuna, Radha Krishna's pastimes in the Yamuna. So this is Krishna's the water pastimes. It's briefly mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we'll start with that. This is in chapter 33. Chapter 33 is the rasa dance. So after the rasa dance, Krishna and the gopis are tired. This is text 21 to 23, which I'll read. Okay. Seeing that the gopis were fatigued from conjugal enjoyment, my dear king, merciful Krishna lovingly wiped their faces with his comforting hand. So after meeting in the forest in the dead of night, by the bank of the Yamuna, they danced. They danced for hours and hours, and played music, and enjoyed each other's company. And after they were perspiring, they were tired, and Krishna, he expanded himself to be with each gopi separately, so that each gopi thought that Krishna's only with me, and then Krishna very lovingly, wiped their perspiration from their brow and comforted them. And it says, the gopis honored their hero with smiling glances, sweetened by the beauty of their cheeks and the effulgence of their curly locks and glittering golden earrings. Overjoyed from the touch of his fingernails, they chanted the glories of his all-auspicious transcendental pastimes. Lord Krishna's garland had been crushed during his conjugal dalliance with the gopis and colored vermilion by the kumkum powder on their breasts. To dispel the fatigue of the gopis, Krishna entered the water of the Yamuna, followed swiftly by bees who were singing like the best of the Gandharvas. He appeared like a lordly elephant entering the water to relax in the company of his consorts. Indeed, the Lord had transgressed all worldly and Vedic morality, just as a powerful elephant might break the dikes in a paddy field. So this is the only thing that Shukadeva Goswami says. There's one more verse. My dear king, in the water Krishna found himself being splashed on all sides by the laughing gopis, who looked at him with love. As the demigods worshipped him by showering flowers from their airplanes, the self-satisfied Lord took pleasure in playing like the king of elephants. So Shukadeva Goswami very briefly touches on this pastime of the water sports of Radha and Krishna in the Yamuna. But Lord Chaitanya, in this ecstatic trance, this is what he's seeing. And in this half-maddened state, he's still kind of in the pastime, but he's externally conscious enough to be aware that he's surrounded by his associates now, and so he's sharing with them basically what he saw, and he's going to give some more details about what happened here. So I'm going to read this, and I'm also going to intersperse it with some descriptions of the same pastime by a book called Ananda Vrindavan Champu by a devotee named Kavi Karnapur. So Kavi Karnapur is he was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya, although he was younger. But he's the son of one great devotee of Lord Chaitanya named Shivananda Sen. Shivananda Sen is famous for organizing the annual yatras, bringing all the residents of Navadvip to Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra. They would all meet Lord Chaitanya once a year, and he would organize the whole trip, the route, and finances, the accommodations, the prasadam, everything for the whole many-day-long walk from Navadvip to Puri. So Shivananda Sain had 3 sons, and the youngest one's name was Paramananda. And Lord Chaitanya was very, very affectionate with this boy, and he gave him the affectionate name Puri Das. And he also empowered him at a young age to compose very beautiful poetry. So because of his beautiful poetry, he was later awarded the name Kavi Karnapur. So Kavi means poet, Karna means ears, and Pur means full. So he got this name Kavi Karnapur because his poetry was so sweet and so beautiful, and it was all about Radha and Krishna, and it would fill the ears of the devotees with nectar. So we're going to hear some of that very nectarian poetry. If you read this book, it's so beautiful. His descriptions are so, so beautiful. And so poetic, full of metaphors and imagery. So we'll see a little bit of that here. We'll see with our eye, we'll see with our ears the beautiful description. So we'll start with Chaitanya Charitamrita. Oops. Okay, this is Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila, chapter 18, and we'll start from text 79. In this half-external consciousness, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talked like a madman. The devotees could distinctly hear him speaking to the sky. So he's just he's in this maddened state speaking. So this is what he says. Seeing the river Yamuna, I went to Vrindavan. There I saw the son of Nanda Maharaj performing his sporting pastimes in the water. Lord Krishna was in the water of the Yamuna in the company of the gopis headed by Srimati Radharani. They were performing pastimes in a great sporting manner. I saw this pastime as I stood on the bank of the Yamuna in the company of the gopis. So during this pastime, Radha is in the Yamuna with Krishna, and some of the gopis, the principal Sakis, are all there in the water, and they're playing together with Krishna, all together. And then there are other gopis who are not in the water, but they're on the bank of the Yamuna just watching and enjoying the fun. So Lord Chaitanya saw himself as standing there on the bank of the Yamuna with some of the gopis watching. One gopi was showing some other gopis the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in the water. So one of the gopis on the side, she's pointing out like, look at that, oh my God, look at that. And Lord Chaitanya is also looking on her prompting. All the gopis entrusted their silken garments and ornaments to the care of their friends, and then put on fine white cloth. Lord Krishna, taking his beloved gopis with him, bathed and performed very nice pastimes in the water of the Yamuna. So they put on their bathing clothes and they went in. My dear friends, just see Lord Krishna's sporting pastimes in the water. So this is the gopis speaking. Krishna's restless palms resemble lotus flowers. He is just like the chief of mad elephants, and the gopis who accompany him are like she-elephants. So I'm going to read a little bit here now. I'm going to insert something from Kavi Karnapur. To dispel the gopis' fatigue from dancing and exhaustive conjugal pastimes, Krishna entered the Yamuna, followed by swiftly moving singing bees. Their lengthy pastimes on the bank had covered Krishna and all the gopis with dust. So they were dancing, and they were raising the dust from their, spinning and stomping of their feet, and they were covered with the dust of Vrindavan. With great enthusiasm, they entered the lotus-filled currents of the Yamuna River. Krishna looked like a lordly elephant playing in the water with his consorts. While bathing in the Yamuna, the exquisite lotus faces of the gopis defeated the beauty of thousands of lotus flowers. Their thin arms defeated the lotus stems. Their full rounded breasts defeated the flocks of chakravaka birds, and their graceful flowing movements defeated the flocks of swans gliding on the water. So in the Yamuna there are all these different things. There are swans, there are lotus flowers, there are chakravaka birds, and so Kavi Karnapur is comparing the gopis to all of these things. That all these things, swans are beautiful, lotuses are beautiful, chakravaka birds are beautiful, but they're nothing compared to the gopis. Right? So Lotus flowers are compared to their beauty. The lotus stems are compared to their... lotus flowers are the beauty of their faces. The lotus stems are their long, slender arms. The chakravaka birds are their breasts. And the movements of the swans are their graceful flowing movements. When the gopis submerged themselves up to their necks, the sky filled with the golden lotuses of their faces. Upon touching their pot-like breasts, the river rose in waves to serve those pairs of chakravaka birds. Just comparing their breasts to chakravaka birds. And the waves of the Yamuna are serving them by covering them. Their many slender arms hanging down in the river appeared like hundreds of lotus stems. So they got into the water up to the neck. It says the sky filled with the golden lotuses of their faces, because Radharani has a complexion like molten gold, and the gopis are also similarly golden. So incidentally, this pastime is happening at night. And this pastime of water sports in the Yamuna happens around between 2 and 2:30 a.m. So this is the middle of the night. And I was thinking, it's one thing, when you swim in a natural body of water like a river or a lake, there's always kind of like an unknown, kind of like a sense of trepidation, right? Like you don't know what's in the water. But what to speak of swimming at night at 2 a.m., complete dark. So you're entering the water in complete dark, water is black, sky is black, but you're going in there. And so the moonlight is reflecting off their golden faces and making this beautiful, lighting up the sky with the golden lotuses of their faces, he says. So we can get a little visual of this. Smelling the fragrance of the gopis' bodies, the swarms of black bees gave up the lotuses and soared towards the gopis. So the black bees are going around the lotuses, but they smell the fragrance of the bodies of the gopis, which is more, aromatic than the lotuses, and they all just leave the lotuses, and now they're swarming around the gopis. It appeared as if the black Yamuna had come to respectfully greet them. It was like a river of bees, as if the Yamuna was represented by the bees, and she'd come to greet them. When the swans flapped their wings, it appeared that out of affection, the Yamuna fanned the tired gopis. So swans were flapping, like making a fan, because they were tired from dancing, right? Trying to let us refresh you. When swarms of black bees gathered above them, and the devatas showered white flowers, it appeared like strings of pearls sewn on a dark blue cloth, shaking in the wind. Okay, so get this imagery. The black sky is there, right, because it's night, and the bees are there, looking like waves of the Yamuna. And then the demigods are in the higher planets, and they're showering white flowers. So these flowers look like strings of pearls sewn on a dark blue cloth. So the dark blue cloth is the midnight blue, the dark sky, and these flower petals are like pearls cascading down and shaking in the wind. This pearl necklace is shaking in the wind because the bees are flying around, and it's making this like scintillating effect. What is it? Like a glimmering effect, sparkly effect of movement. So yeah, so beautiful. Okay, so continue here from Chaitanya Charitamrita. The sporting pastimes in the water began, and everyone started splashing water back and forth. In the tumultuous showers of water, no one could be certain which party was winning and which party was losing. This sporting water fight increased unlimitedly. The gopis were like steady streaks of lightning, and Krishna resembled a blackish cloud. The lightning began sprinkling water upon the cloud, and the cloud upon the lightning. Like thirsty chataka birds, the eyes of the gopis joyously drank the nectarian water from the cloud. So the gopis on the shore are watching this, and their eyes are getting filled with nectar. And the gopis are splashing Krishna, Krishna's splashing the gopis, and Kavi Karnapur is going to tell us a little more here. Keeping their beloved in the center and making a circle around him, the gopis hit the water while holding their hands. The gopis. Okay, so what's happening is Krishna's they surrounded him basically. So this is a war, okay? And they surrounded him. They have him in the Chaturvyuha, the battle formation, and he's trapped. And they're all they're joining their hands, and then they've got their fingers interlocked. So one gopi's hand is here, and another gopi's hand is here, and with the combined strength of their both arms, they're like that, hitting the water and splashing Krishna from all sides. So Krishna's just getting pummeled with water, basically. That's what's going on here. All right, so the gopis hit the water while holding their hands together. This caused little waves to rise from the Yamuna, which in turn splashed against the chest of Krishna. So Yamuna is also joining in the fun and also attacking Krishna, splashing against his chest. The waves looked like hairs of the Yamuna's body standing on end in ecstasy. Interlocking their fingers, the gopis gathered water in their hands and forcefully splashed Krishna. Let's continue from here. As the fight began, they splashed water on one another. Then they fought hand to hand, then face to face, then chest to chest, teeth to teeth, and finally nail to nail. So this is getting rough. So they're splashing, and the circle is closing in, right? They're splashing him, they're getting closer and closer and closer, and the force of the splashing is getting more and more. And then when they get within arm's distance of each other, then they grab hold. So Krishna's trying to stop them, he's grabbing hold of their hands, and they're fighting like this, and they're basically wrestling there in the water. And then face to face means that they're kissing, and chest to chest means that they're embracing. Teeth to teeth, I'll leave that up to your imagination. And nail to nail, sometimes scratching each other. So this is going on in the water. Thousands of hands splashed water, and the gopis saw Krishna with thousands of eyes. With thousands of legs they came near him, and they kissed him with thousands of faces. Thousands of bodies embraced him. The gopis heard his joking words with thousands of ears. So there were so many gopis there in the water surrounding Krishna. And Krishna also, just like he does in the rasa dance, he expands himself to be with each and every gopi so that no one feels left out. Everyone is simultaneously embracing Krishna, right? With thousands of arms embracing him, with thousands of faces kissing him. Krishna forcibly swept Radharani away. So Krishna does this. Similarly, like in the rasa dance, they're all dancing in a circle. But of course, Radharani is Krishna's favorite, so not only they're dancing together in a circle, but sometimes Krishna whisks Radharani away and they wander off to another place to be alone together. So this happens also in the water. Krishna forcibly swept Radharani away and took her into water up to her neck. Then he released her, where the water was very deep. So apparently Radharani wasn't a strong swimmer. She grasped Krishna's neck, however, and floated on the water like a lotus flower plucked by the trunk of an elephant. Krishna expanded himself into as many forms as there were gopis, and then took away all the garments that covered them. The water of the river Yamuna was crystal clear, and Krishna saw the glittering bodies of the gopis in great happiness. So let's see here. It appeared that Hari, Krishna, had been wounded by the power of Cupid's water weapon. So Krishna was getting on the one hand he was getting very splashed, and the other hand he was getting attacked, and the other hand he was getting overwhelmed by the love of the gopis. So in all these ways he's being wounded by the gopis' attacks, and also, not physically wounded, but wounded by the power of Cupid in the form of this water pastimes. Knowing that Cupid's weapon could not be destroyed, but it could be counteracted, Krishna dove under the water. Moving his hands, Krishna playfully snatched the sashes of the gopis. So Kavi Karnapur gives a little insight into how he grabbed their clothes as he dove underwater. They couldn't see him, and then he came up and from underwater, he stole the top cloths that were covering them. Pretending to be afraid, they jumped up and ran away as Krishna pursued them, splashing water. So they all went running one direction, and Krishna chasing them, splashing from behind. After quickly defeating the gopis in the water fight, so it looks like Krishna did actually get some, he got on top of his game there. Krishna grabbed all the necklaces as booty. So in a battle, the victors, after defeating the enemy, they go and collect all the booty, right? All the armor, all the jewelry, all the helmets, because those helmets were made of gold and jewels and valuable things. And so he gathered together, he's like, now I've won, now I'm collecting my booty. and he steals their necklaces, and he takes their earrings and their ankle bells, and takes all their jewelry, and it says, and stored them under his armpit. So he took it all. He was in his swimming clothes. He didn't have pockets or something, so he held it there. Let's see. Radha didn't like that. So Radha secretly approached from behind, loosened. So when he wasn't paying attention, she grabbed hold of his arm and she seized the necklaces. Okay, I'll continue here. All right. The lotus stems were friends of the gopis and therefore helped them by offering them lotus leaves. The lotuses pushed their large round leaves over the surface of the water with their hands, the waves of the Yamuna, to cover the gopis' bodies. Yeah, so after getting their clothes taken away, Yamuna Devi, she's also female, so she understands what it feels like to be a female in that situation. So she arranges that the lotus flowers, because lotus plants have big leaves, and so the leaves, the waves of the Yamuna push the lotuses and their leaves over there, and then the leaves cover the gopis' bodies. It says, some gopis undid their hair and kept it in front of them as dresses to cover the lower portions of their bodies, and used their hands as bodices to cover their breasts. Then Krishna quarreled with Radharani, and all the gopis hid themselves in a cluster of white lotus flowers. They submerged their bodies up to the necks in the water. Only their faces floated above the surface, and their faces were indistinguishable from the lotuses. So their faces are called, sometimes we say they're beautiful, like they're lotus faces. So when the gopis are hiding amongst the light-colored lotus flowers, because they're all white or goldenish in complexion or yellowish, so when they're hiding amongst there, you can't tell the difference between the lotuses and the gopis' faces. Sometimes Krishna also, he'll hide amongst the blue lotuses when he's trying to hide from them. Radhika tried to hide amongst some golden lotus flowers, but was afraid of the deep water. Radha looked fearfully when Krishna discovered her hiding place and swam towards her. Coming up from behind, so Radharani is hiding from Krishna, and Krishna spots her, and then she sees that he's coming. She sees that he sees her and that he's coming, but then he dives down into the water, so she loses sight of him. Then, coming up from behind, Krishna suddenly placed his hands around her body and lifted her up out of the water. The other gopis just stared in amazement at his behavior. Because for the other gopis, Radharani is she's like their purpose for a living. You know, she's like their queen, their worshipable deity. And to see Krishna just being so naughty, so cheeky with Radharani, and they're like, In the absence of the other gopis, Lord Krishna behaved with Srimati Radharani as freely as he desired. When the gopis began searching for Krishna, Srimati Radharani, being of very fine intelligence, and thus knowing the situation of her friends, immediately mingled in their midst. Radha startled when some restless... So what's happening here is that Krishna's alone with Radharani. Krishna's doing whatever he wants with her. Then the gopis start searching for them. And Radharani goes over to where the gopis are. So she separates herself, she extricates herself from Krishna's embrace, and then she goes back with her gopi friends. But then something happens. Radha startled when some restless safari fish, minnows, suddenly brushed against her legs. Out of fear, she clutched Krishna's neck and embraced him again and again. So that was Krishna's arrangement. The fish came along. Then Radha glorified the genuine friendship of the safari fish and broke out in a tender smile. So actually she was happy. She was pleased with the fish. Almost at the end of this. Many white lotus flowers were floating in the water, and as many bluish lotus flowers came nearby. As they came close together, the white and blue lotuses collided and began fighting with one another. The gopis on the bank of the Yamuna watched with great amusement. So this is, he's being metaphorical here. The white lotus flowers are the gopis, and the blue lotus flowers are Krishna, and is expanded in so many forms. It's saying many white lotus flowers are floating, and many blue lotus flowers came, and as they came together, they collided and began fighting with each other. So this is showing, giving some little hint as to the pastimes that are going on there. And the gopis on the bank, and Lord Chaitanya is also there with them, are watching with great amusement. So I'll stop there, and there's just one last section here. So at the end of this pastime, the gopis are so pleased. They're so happy and grateful to the Yamuna for providing a beautiful venue for this wonderful loving exchanges. So they want to offer some gifts. So after Krishna had stolen their jewelry and they'd gotten it back, then they thought, let's offer our jewelry to Yamuna Devi. So it says, after offering their precious gems and jeweled ornaments to the Yamuna River as a gift, the gopis fashioned earrings of spotless water lilies, hair ornaments of lotuses, necklaces of lotus stems, and belts of saivala plants. Their bangles tinkled when they scooped up water in their left hands and slapped them with their right hands to imitate the music of the frogs. So they gave Yamuna all of their jewelry, and then they're taking the natural things from the Yamuna, plants and flowers and lotus stems, and they're crafting them into different kinds of jewelry, necklaces and bangles and earrings and things. And thus the water pastimes met a fitting close. After rubbing oil on their bodies, the golden-hued gopis bathed and then climbed up on the bank of the Yamuna. They looked very beautiful with their loosened undergarments and dark locks of their hair dripping with water. So they weren't completely naked, they had their undergarments on after all. It appeared as if the bright rays of the moon, pursued by dense darkness, now retreated and wept. So beautiful, right? The bright rays of the moon, pursued by dense darkness, now retreated and wept. Because the gopis were like effulgent, right? Like the rays of the moon. And now they're leaving the water. And they're dripping wet. So these wet, dripping gopis are like the bright rays of the moon, pursued by darkness, because they're coming out of the dark water of the Yamuna, and weeping. There's the water dripping down their bodies. The gopis towel dried their bodies and put on ornaments, clothing, and cosmetics supplied by the all-auspicious Yogamaya, who is always active and expert in supplying the right things at just the right time. So that Yogamaya is Vrindadevi. While dressing themselves, the gopis took on the role of women who dominated their lover. Well, with their pleasing complexions and dangling earrings, the gopis looked like the goddesses of fortune. Intelligence judges them as the topmost reservoirs of praying and the abodes of sweetness, covered with festive joy. So that's a little pastime of Radharani and her friends and Krishna. And so after this pastime, the things continue. Pastime continues to unfold, and and the pastime continues to go into the night. So now we're already at 2:30 a.m. and then there are many opportunities for. Radharani has her friends, and she also has so many maidservants who serve these pastimes in so many ways. Bringing the towels, bringing the jewelry, bringing the clean clothes, bringing refreshments, and bathing them, fixing Radharani's hair after it's got all disheveled during the water fights, and like that. So, so as the night goes on, Radha and Krishna are alone together, and Krishna notices that he's looking at Radharani's feet, and he notices that the red lac. You see Radharani's feet? I was thinking of this pastime when I saw Radharani's feet, because when you see Radharani's feet, there's like red around the side. So the bottoms and the rims of Radharani's soles of her feet are colored with this red thing. It's called lac, or alta. So that's something that's painted on. So Krishna was looking, maybe massaging Radharani's feet later on in the night, and he said, "Oh, Radharani, your lac has come off due to your, all of the action in the water, and the sand of the Yamuna and the water, and it's kind of worn off the red lac." And he wanted to paint it. So then one of the maidservants of Radharani, so Radha and Krishna are alone, but the maidservants are outside. They're alone in a kind of private area, right? It's called a kunj, Radha Madhava Kunj Vihari. So they're in this nice little sweet grove, and but the maidservants are outside, and they're very attentive to what's going on inside because they're waiting in case they need something, right? In case there's some opportunity to serve them according to whatever way that Krishna wants to serve Radha or whatever way that Radha wants to serve Krishna. So they're listening very attentively, and they hear Krishna saying, "Oh Radharani, the lac seems to have worn off your feet." So immediately, one of those maidservants, and I was just reading about this in a book by Raghunath Das Goswami called Vilapa Kusumanjali. And so Raghunath Das Goswami is actually one of those maidservants, and he's particularly this maidservant who does this service that I'm going to talk about right now. So he's talking about it in this book. He's talking about himself in the form of a gopi maidservant. So his name in that role is Rati Manjari. So Rati Manjari is outside, and she hears, and she's thinking, oh, Krishna is noticing the lac, let me bring. So she had this desire previously, and so she brings the fresh bottle of red lac, she brings the paintbrushes, she brings the palette, she brings everything that's necessary for, and she just, breezes in at just the right moment as soon as Krishna is thinking that, and she hands him the paintbrush, and she hands him the palette and the bottle of lac. And so Krishna, he's like, wow, this is perfect. He's very pleased with her service. And then Radharani sits on a raised seat, and her feet are there, and Krishna starts painting. So he's painting around, and Radharani has marks on the bottom of her feet. Her feet aren't like our feet with just lines, but they have symbols. There are all these different auspicious symbols on the feet of Radharani. So Krishna's painting around, and he's looking at those things, and he's thinking, Radharani's feet are so beautiful. Radharani is so exalted. Radharani is like my mistress. She's like, my worshipable deity, and I would like to be always situated at her lotus feet. In fact, these symbols on Radharani's feet are so fortunate, more fortunate than I am, because it's only sometimes at night, and sometimes in the middle of the day, maybe I get to meet with Radharani, and I get to serve her lotus feet. But these symbols are decorating and serving and glorifying Radharani's feet 24/7, constantly. I would like to be situated at Radharani's feet eternally like they are. So then thinking like this, he thought, oh, well, there's a way that I can do that, because my holy name and myself are non-different. And so he decides to paint his name on the bottom of the sole of Radharani's foot. So he's getting the paintbrush, and Rati Manjari is just like, there and smiling and beaming. And so now he's already put the lacquer on the sides, that's all good. And now he's in this red paint, he's painting his name, Krishna. But he's getting unsteady because he's getting very ecstatic. He's being overwhelmed with love while he's doing this. And so he's painting, but the lines, it's supposed to be, in Sanskrit Devanagari, there's like, the line here, and there's like some things, and then there's lines. So in Krishna's name, there's some vertical lines, like Krishna, right? So he's trying to make the vertical lines, but they're coming out squiggly because his hand is shaking because he's getting overwhelmed with loving ecstasy. And so Rati Manjari is sitting there. It's just Krishna, and Rati's right next to him, and Radha. It's just the three of them there in that private place. And Rati's like, she just starts laughing. She's thinking it's so funny that Krishna's like shaking, painting his name on Radha's foot. And she just starts giggling and giggling. And seeing her laughing, Krishna starts laughing. And the two of them are laughing. So in the meantime, Radharani, she's on a higher place. So she's looking down there, and she's like, hey, what's so funny? But then Krishna can't speak because he's like practically stunned in ecstasy. And Rati Manjari can't speak because she's just like rolling in laughter. And so Radharani gets a little impatient with them, and and Rati's there. And so she takes her lotus foot that Krishna just painted his name on, and she kicks Rati Manjari. And she kicks her right in the arm. And so what happens is that Rati Manjari gets this beautiful stamp of Radha's lotus foot, because it's just painted, so the outline is there, and it's got Krishna's name on it. So this is like super exquisite, and this is exactly what Rati was wanting, because before this happened, Rati had approached Radharani, and she had said, Radharani, you're so dear, you're more dear to me than my life. I offer my head at your lotus feet eternally as your maidservant. and I beg that you accept me. And Radharani said, of course I accept you. And then Rati said, but I want some proof of that. I want some tangible proof of that. And Radharani said, what proof would you like? And then she said, somehow you need to mark my body. like a cow gets branded. That branding mark shows that who the owner is, right? Or like you have a book in a library, and the library will stamp in the front and back of the book that this book is property of this library. So she said, my desire is that you will stamp me with the impression of your lotus foot. So she had that desire previously, and she was wondering. Radharani was saying, okay, so be it. But days were passing, and she was wondering how this desire was going to be fulfilled. And then finally, this incident happened, and Radharani, boom, and she was like so ecstatic. It was like her, most cherished dream come true, and there in the association of Krishna, and not just the footprint, but with Krishna's name on it. So later on, at daybreak, when the other manjaris came and other gopis were there, and they saw that, they were like, hey, where did you get that? So that was something very special. So I was thinking that, it's very special. It's very rare that we can even see Radharani's lotus feet, right? Maybe it's just once or maybe twice a year that we can see Radharani's lotus feet. Today is one of those special days, so everyone make sure you come close and get a good glimpse. You can see like 4 different sets of Radharani's feet on the altar, not just Kalachandji's Radha, but also Chota Kalachandji's Radha, Govinda's Radha, and then even have a guest Radha Krishna, probably maybe for the Abhishek. Okay, so we can see a lot of Radharani's lotus feet, but we can't see the bottom of Radharani's lotus feet. Nor can we get stamped by Radharani's feet, at least not now in our present state. But maybe by the mercy of Raghunath Das Goswami, the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and his associates, we can one day have that close, intimate contact with Radharani's lotus feet, and we can confirm our position as her maidservant. So, by the mercy of Srimati Radharani, Krishna enjoys all of these pastimes. By the mercy of Radharani, Lord Chaitanya and his followers have revealed these pastimes. And by the mercy of Radharani, we can also enter once again into these pastimes to serve her servants in the service of the divine couple. So on this auspicious day of Radharani's appearance, let us pray to Srimati Radharani for her special mercy so we can be showered with her grace and have some realization of her relationship with Krishna and how we fit into that in the eternal pastimes. Srimati Radharani ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Sri Ananda Vrindavan Champu ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi jai. So I don't know if we have time for questions or something. Maybe not. Okay. Hare Krishna, happy Radhastami.
Hare Krishna.